Hi, this is Jordan from Recap Animation. All properties are owned by their respective companies. Please enjoy. Previously we saw, now a black jinn, Kasim exploits Ali Baba's reluctance to kill him and breaks his sword. Sinbad weakens Kasim until Judar joins the battle and takes control of him. Judar and Kasim overpower Ali Baba, but just as they're about to kill him, Aladdin appears. Aladdin deflects Judar's attack and asks Ali Baba for help saving Kasim. While Aladdin uses the wisdom of Solomon to keep Judar at bay, Ali Baba enters Kasim's memories to save his friend. Ali Baba defeated the Black Jinn but couldn't save Kasim. Several months later, Sinbad returned to Sindria after negotiating with the Ku Empire on Balbad's behalf. He introduces Ali Baba and Aladdin to their mentors, Shah Khan and Yamreha. While everyone celebrates Maharajan, Hakuryu and Kubyoku are heading towards Sindria. Aladdin is getting instructions from Yamreha. He gathers White Rook into a fireball, lifts the rod upright, and shoots his Har Infagar toward the sky. With the help of Sharar Magud, Yamreha demonstrates that releasing heat does not require magic by using her first two fingers and disappearing. When Aladdin cannot locate her, she demonstrates the basics of magic by using orders to ruck through various magical formulas and observing as they achieve the desired results. For her invisibility, she decrees Rook to gather water, change the water into vapor, and utilize the refractions of light. Meanwhile, Ali Baba is sparring with Shah Khan. When Ali Baba is about to strike Shah Khan with the sword, he pushes him to the ground. He has to practice with the particular sword as his jinn-equipped sword is the same size. Amon has not responded to him since his sword has been broken. Sinbad shows up and takes Ali Baba to a vault where he reveals that jinns can move in any metal vessel with which their master has an emotional connection. Ali Baba then says that he bought the broken dagger with the first money he made, which was the same day his father came to see him. While he was telling his story, sunlight entered the vault through the holes. Sinbad gives Ali Baba a sword from the late King Rashid to boost his strength in the battle where he fights alone. Morgiana witnessed the entire scenario. Once he entrusts the sword to Ali Baba, Amon transfers himself to the new sword. Then Sinbad tells Morgiana that households are warriors who get magic from the king candidate and powers from his jinn. He tells her to choose a metal ornament that has a special meaning for her for the household vessel. Sinbad offers some metal jewelry to her. Ali Baba reveals some gauntlets to Morgiana, who is intrigued by them, but then she decides to use the ankle cuffs that are her obligation to her friends. Meanwhile, Jafar breaks the news of Ku's delegation arrival to the king. Sinbad, with his 8 commanders present, welcome them. Seeing the prince, Ali Baba hears a voice inside that tells him to hate him. Hakuryu, Ren, the 4th prince of the Ku Empire, introduces himself to Sinbad. He was delighted to meet the king of Sindria. Then Sinbad spots Princess Kugyoku Ren, much to Jafar's surprise. Basti then asks in her curiosity if Princess is interested in Sinbad, as she is talking to Sinbad normally. Sinbad's generals think that nothing immoral would have happened in the Ku Empire. Then suddenly, Kogyoku unsheaths and swings her sword at Sinbad. She challenges Sinbad to a duel for disgracing her body. Jafar demands Sinbad to explain, and Kogyoku starts breaking down into tears. Kuban explains the fiction as it would be considered cruel to insist the princess say any more. A lavish farewell dinner was arranged at the palace for King Sinbad on the last night of his visit to the Ku Empire. In the morning, Princess Kugyoku woke up in Sinbad's bed, where she saw Sinbad sleeping naked by her side. Regarding the 7 alliance leaders, Sinbad did not deal with such a difficult situation in his life before. Then Kogyoku threatens to kill herself if Sinbad does not take responsibility. Kuban tries to calm her. Sinbad tries to remember if anything has happened. A king of the 7 seas could not lose himself to harming women. Jafar states that this situation leads to a war with the Ku Empire. Sinbad does not want to befall the people of his country from this injustice. He recalls that he didn't see her at the palace. Sharkin and Sparto state that Sinbad was not drunk and went straight to bed. King admits that he strips off his clothes before sleeping. Kugyoku shares what happens in the palace. She watched Sinbad, but never got to talk to him. Then, at night, someone knocked her out, and she awoke and found herself in his room while Sinbad was naked. Sinbad asks his generals to believe him, and how he could commit a crime on a diplomatic mission, but none of them have any faith in him. Yamreha adds that she is also a victim of his lust. King disheartens, recalling the adventures they face and building trust in each other. Kuban insists Sinbad marry Kugyoku, so Kogyoku's honor will not tarnish. Jafar adds that there are only two choices, war or friendship. They have to deal with all their master's faults. Ali Baba and Aladdin feel dreadful about the situation. Sinbad asks Yamrea to use her magic to prove his innocence. Using Sharar Rakesa, Yamrea's magic water reenacts the scenes. This magic tells only the truth. When everyone is looking at the magic projection, they see someone carrying the fainted water figures of Kogyoku to Sinbad's bed. But nothing occurs between the two that night. Both the body and her honor are safe. Thus, it proves Sinbad's innocence. Despite seeing what has happened, Kobun refuses to accept this. Kogyoku apologizes to Sinbad because even she could not understand why her hair and clothes were not in disarray. Then her attendants try to calm her. Then Kobun thinks about his plans while everyone else tries to figure out who did it. It turns out that Kobun has the two servants bring Kogyoku to Sinbad's bed. Since her marriage to Ahmad didn't work out, Kobun thinks he can get Sinbad and Kogyoku to get married and protect his way of life by going with the princess to her political marriage, so that the princess can marry the man she has always wanted and then he can control her in the background. However, the servants confess that Kobun is behind this event. Kobun draws his sword and says that he is innocent. Hakuyu steps in and pushes the sword on the floor and apologizes to Sinbad for his fellow citizens' misdeed. He asks permission for Sinbad to stay at Sindria. Kobun hugs Kogyoku and pretends to sob. Jafar notices him and spits on Kobun. Later, Sinbad chats with Hakuyu and tells him that he admires him for his efforts. When Hakuyu points out that Sinbad is lying, he tells them that an organization is targeting Sindria. Hakuyu reveals his true intentions are to destroy the Ku Empire. Sinbad advises him to study first, but he refuses. Sinbad looks at him and informs Hakuyu to learn more about the world and that he should meet up with Ali Baba, the third prince of Balbad. Meanwhile, Sharkan leisurely drinks with two beautiful ladies in a bar, while Ali Baba is caught in the middle. Sharkan forbade Ali Baba to call him a teacher. He asks Ali Baba about his intentions for the Ku's prince. He wants him to have a match with the prince. A tall woman, Ekaterina, comes by to chat with Ali Baba, who is shocked to see how she resembles someone in Kishan and gets frightened. The next day, Yamreha does a demonstration for Aladdin. Rook forms a water body which moves towards Aladdin. He put together two commands, gathered the blazes, and built a wall. She immerses Aladdin in a sphere of water at Aladdin's request. Aladdin gets an idea for a barrier made of magic only with flames. Elsewhere, Ali Baba spars with Sharkan. Ali Baba could not face his attack. Sharkan comments that Ali Baba's swordplay and jinn equipment are incompatible and advises him to consider finding his new style. Later, in front of the fountain, Aladdin motivates Ali Baba. He says that he gets bullied sometimes by Yamreha, but he is learning new skills. Morgiana is seen from the back of the pillars with a box in her hand. She runs toward Aladdin and Ali Baba, where she reveals her new household vessel. She made her anklets with a firebird pattern, which symbolizes the sun. When Aladdin asks for a demonstration, Morgiana kicks and her chains fly and wrap around her two friends. Then Hakuyu and Kogyoku visit Aladdin's group at the king's request because Sinbad wants Kogyoku to learn from them. He thanks Aladdin for saving his older sister, Okue, as she is on a campaign in the western part of the Tenzin Plateau. Ali Baba begins to hear a voice in his mind instructing him to hate Hakuyu, and Kogyoku notices the hate in his eyes. Kogyoku and Aladdin decide to shake hands to forget the past, only to squeeze each other's hands. Hakuyu tells him about the Governor-General who was dispatched for Balbad, the first imperial prince, Entai. As Hakuyu talks, Ali Baba's left arm squirms in pain until Ali Baba collapses to the ground. Black stains appear on his body. Later, Ali Baba is lying on a bed. Hakuyu, the princess, and his friends are standing near the bed. When Sinbad arrives, Ithnan bursts out of Ali Baba's wounds. Ithnan calls Ali Baba a spineless man because he didn't fight with Hakuyu. Sinbad immediately slices Ithnan in half, and Ithnan's blood spills on Sinbad. Ithnan explains that his curse will cause their bodies to fall into the internal struggle between the white and black rook. They will fall into iniquity, and then he disappears. In the courtroom, Yamreha is wrapping Sinbad with with magic, and she explains that the curse is magic-driven and she does not know the solution. Then Sinbad says there is an island of Tauran people in which dungeon is present. He instructs Ali Baba to capture Zagan's dungeon to get Zagan to lift the curse. He explains that he and his generals cannot enter dungeons since they have acquired too many jinns. Then Hakuryu asks Sinbad to let him join Ali Baba's group, and he informs Sinbad that he does not want to rely on Judar's powers, so Sinbad allows him. At sea, Pistai tries to cheer up Ali Baba and tells him about stagnation magic, which prevents the spread of the curse for 10 days. Ali Baba recalls Yamreaha's instructions about the seal on his wrist. A large seahorse creature attacks the ship, and Pistai uses her flute to soothe the beast to avoid fighting it. After explaining her household vessel, Aladdin is puzzled about addressing Pistai. Pistai states that she is older than Ali Baba, and when Aladdin feels Pistai's chest and pouts, Pistai is saddened about her chest size. Hakuryu arrives with some of his cooking, and while Morgiana comments how Hakuryu is not a bad guy, Ali Baba hears the same voice telling him to hate Hakuryu. He discusses it with the king, who tells him it might be the voice of the person who curses him, or he hates Hakuryu deep inside his heart. Sinbad advises overcoming this. At the palace, Sinbad tells Jafar that Ali Baba's group will be safer in the dungeon, and his curse motivates them. Arriving at Tauran village, Aladdin bumps into Dunya and Isaac near the docks. A young girl, Tiare, asks Ali Baba's group to take her to Zagan's dungeon so that she can rescue her parents. Pistai explains that Zagan has been gobbling up villagers. Hakuryu consoles the young Tauran girl and reassures her that he will find her parents. On the river, Aladdin, while driving on a boat, notices Morgiana wearing her household vessel on her wrists. He recalls the king's instructions to forgive Hakuryu. When the gang spot Zagan's dungeon in the distance, Zagan pulls Aladdin's group through the strings of light into his dungeon. Leaves open the scene. Intertwined woods grow too high. Morgiana and the others look at their surroundings. Ali Baba thinks about Sinbad, who tells him that this is his trial. He tells his group to explore each room. Any of them will lead to the treasure room. In the first room, a bunch of talking turtles drop by to take a bite out of Ali Baba's group, but they don't harm. With each door open, the creatures swarm all over them, ready to bite. Aladdin stops Hakuryu from slaying a plant monster. These rooms are homes of dungeon stuff. Then Morgiana finds another route deep into the dungeon, where they stumbled upon a large bear that asks them for honey. Then someone's voice is heard, singing. The bear attacks Ali Baba's group, and when it is about to strike Hakuryu, Morgiana blocks his punch. She punches the bear until it falls. Ali Baba quickly slashes its chest with a sword, while Aladdin unleashes his burning magic. In the next room, the group discovers that the monsters are painting over the villagers implanted in the trees. A sound echoes, and a huge blue djinn, Zagan, sprouts from the ground that he has the human supply magic for his orchard. He uses magic to feed the creature. Trees suck the magic from humans to give dungeon creation birth. Hakuryu tries to pull a woman from the tree, only to see how impractical it is. When Ali Baba asks Zagan why he would do this, Zagan replies that he eats humans. Hakuryu attacks Zagan, who reveals that he has captured a young Tauran girl, Tiare. Following Zagan in the next room, Ali Baba and his company meet an array of floating cubes with monsters. Zagan notices how their group has a jinn and a magi, so he increases the difficulty level. With the voice activating the monsters, Ali Baba tries to tackle them, but cannot. Monsters have defensive borgs and flotation magic. Aladdin uses his flame magic to blow up the monsters. The monsters fuse into one large one, and Aladdin uses his flames to give Ali Baba the strength to cut down the giant monster. Hakuryu asks his group to let him fight his battles. Upon hearing Hakuryu's request, Zagan decides to split Hakuryu's group into two teams. Meanwhile, Morgiana and Hakuryu spot a golem, and Morgiana attempts to kick it, only to fail. Zagan states that they need magic to defeat the golems. When Hakuryu slices one golem, Zagan realizes that Hakuryu uses Kai, a form of magic manipulation. Meanwhile, Ali Baba thinks about what Sharkan had told him earlier about his weapon. Hakuryu Hakuryu struggles to keep fighting. He refuses Morgiana's help and continues to push on. Recalling Alibaba's situation, Morgiana states that she will lend her strength after she lifts and throws one golem at the other. Hakuryu faints. In his flashbacks, he remembers his brothers dying in flames and his sister's words. When Hakuryu wakes up, Zagon remarks on how Hakuryu is pulling down his comrades. Hakuryu bursts into tears and lashes out at his comrades who try to console him. Alibaba admits to Hakuryu that he is weak and that he could not save Kasim and the others if he did not ask for help earlier. Hakuryu bows down and asks them to let him fight with them. Meanwhile, Judar levitates high above Syndria. If you have made it to the end, thank you so much for watching this recap with us. If you like this recap and want to see more like it, click the like button below to watch part 8 of this series.